Welcome to the January 2024 CS Executive Brain Trust host event panel discussion. Today, we gathered CS executives from many different industries, many different size companies to talk about escalations and objective criteria for how you run escalations. What are you giving your frontline people for how what they need to know when they need to escalate up a ticket or a customer support? So we had Josh Carpenter give a great presentation on the 20-minute rule, something that he covers. And then after that, we went into breakout rooms and we talked and we shared best practices about some of the things that we as CS executives are doing and implementing in our business and what we may have implemented in the past. So we have this wonderful panel here that are going to contribute some thoughts, ideas around this topic. But I'd first like to invite our speaker, Josh, to cover what he presented on and subsequently conversations came out of. So with that, Josh, I'm going to turn it over to you to summarize your presentation.
Thanks, Paul. Yeah, it's just like you said, there's objective criteria that can really facilitate the flow of an escalation. And putting it into context, escalations are not a bad thing or a good thing per se. They're just a natural part of our workflow in this business. The 20-minute rule in a nutshell is don't spend too much time digging in on an issue, and don't spend too little time digging in on an issue. Decide what's right for your organization, set a time limit, check in with yourself, see if you're making progress, continue, and maybe do that 3 times. So the 20-minute rule takes an hour if you've done it 3 times. But if any point during those 3 iterations you find yourself up against a brick wall, then simply escalate, right? No harm, no foul. You did your due diligence, you tried, but better to escalate and move quickly through the process than to just spin your wheels and spend too much time down blind alleys. So that's the essence of the 20-minute rule.
Excellent. Thank you, Josh. And Josh shared a great story about a complicated ticket that he was dealing with. He ended up taking a couple days to try to solve it, escalated it up to senior development. They had to go into the code and dig into the code base. And there were a lot of variables that were leading to this issue. And ultimately, he realized that he was never going to be able to solve it, and that the 20-minute rule would have really been able to help him. And so I think that may be where that came from, this methodology or this idea came from. So thank you so much, Josh. Now I'm going to open it up to our panelists here to add on to Josh's presentation and add some ideas. So we're going to start with Mike, and then we'll move over to Ryan. Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's a good discussion with Josh in our breakout, because I think in the world I came from of industrial software, if you could solve it in 20 minutes, that would be kind of a miracle. A lot of these problems went on for weeks or months, to resolve, because they get to be very complicated. But maybe two takeaways that I learned from that. One is having very good metrics. I mean, having SLAs, knowing when those SLAs have been breached, having those metrics that you can run the business with, but also that you can highlight to other members of the executive team, like the development team. How much of this is waiting on the development team to kind of take action? And the rule I gave my team was, at any point in time, I want to know about the 10 biggest issues. So you need to figure out in this whole thing, what are the 5 to 10 critical issues out there that haven't been resolved that I need to be aware of, or potentially I need to get involved in. Maybe I need to talk to the customer. I need to talk to somebody. But that's kind of important, because some of this stuff may have to be escalated to a higher level. So I think those things work well for us. But I think I would have loved to live in a world where you could solve things in 20 minutes. That would have been really cool.
I guess I'll jump right in right after. The one thing I'll add on to that, I find the time box works well as a backstop, but it also has to have some rules associated with it. So it's something we talked about in our breakout was, one of your customers maybe has a big, huge contract that's on the line, and you don't want to have any kind of escalations or frustrations there. So there should be a trigger that the team can see that, no, this has to be escalated right away, or you could put it in AI for that matter. And then the other one is escalate when you hit a point. So what I like to frame for my teams is you have to go through these few things and then you can punt it up. Because what we started finding is if we said it's 20 minutes and then you punt it, they didn't really do everything that they should have done. And then there's some frustrations on the top side. So our feedback loop came back with, okay, let's make sure that they accomplish these few things before it gets punted up. And some people are really fast and they make it through that in 5 minutes, and then it's okay, it's escalate. That's my input.
Yeah, I think kind of coupling off what you guys just spoke about, we didn't speak so much on the procedure, so to speak, but more about the philosophies of escalations in our breakout group, which I think is also important. And Jill, actually, I don't think she's in here now, but she brought up a good point on a couple of things. I mean, relating back to customer experience and really understanding the personality of the person that you're speaking to and using that data. You know, each person is different. And so each person might require something a little bit, you know, maybe a higher ticket item gift or maybe a gift card or whatever the case is. Really understanding the customer is so crucial. And then Dawn brought up a great point about just making it an opportunity to wow the customer, which is another really cool, I think, moment in the customer experience, like in general, because when they get to the escalation point, I feel like customers really don't expect a lot more coming from that situation. So if you really give them an opportunity to wow them, I think that's great. And then again, just taking the losses as well as you take the wins. Not everyone's going to be okay with the outcome of each situation. So being able to kind of take that with a grain of salt, move on, and be as efficient as possible while still kind of giving the best service, I think is really crucial.
That's amazing, guys. So this, Peter, if I just gonna add to the discussion as well from a potentially slightly different angle. Clearly, escalation rules and guidance. I mean, it requires process, partially technology. But if we have the starting point that obviously the agent, the customer service rep, will have a massive impact on the outcome of that customer interaction. How does the customer feel? I could easily see that the moment that the agent doesn't feel confident any longer, no matter where that is in the conversation, no matter what time, is just really follow his own instinct. Like, guys, I'm out of my depth, right? I don't know what to do anymore. I think that is an amazing trigger to allow the agent at that point to say, hands up. I want to hand this off to somebody else, to the next level, to whatever the escalation goes to. To make sure that you don't put that agent who's leading the customer conversation into the position that she doesn't feel really confident anymore to have that conversation at that point. So yeah, level of empowerment. Use that really skill that we all have of empathy. Like, I feel I cannot do it anymore. Would be great if that could be a general rule of thumb as well for our teams to use as an escalation trigger. Yeah, cheers, guys.
Saw someone in there before me, but it looks like they lowered their hand.
And then
One
I
thing
think
I'll add
Jason
on to
is
that
muted.
one is when you do allow the team to escalate quicker, it's really important to have that feedback loop in there, so that I think I mentioned this before, that the team that got escalated to has a chance to say, hey, he probably should have known this, so that you can push down training to that lower team, because maybe they felt uncomfortable, but they shouldn't have been. And that can cause frustrations between teams because the team above them is saying, we keep getting all these escalations that we shouldn't. It's the only thing I was going to add on. And I think it was Jason that had something before, so I'll let him speak in.
Thanks for jumping in, Ryan. Rookie mistake. I didn't take myself off mute. I was going to comment on what Peter was talking about. I definitely agree. I think a big piece of the communication is the confidence. And confidence doesn't necessarily mean you have to always know the answer or you have to pretend like you know the answer. I think the confidence is in knowing what's next. And so as what's sort of already been said, is if it's clear what's next and you're communicating that, you feel like there's momentum and you can portray that confidence, and then the customer feels confident in you as an agent or whoever's working with them. And so if you're clear about next steps, that's very helpful. And then that also brings in another point just around transparency. Even if you have to escalate, explaining what's going on and why you have to escalate, what you're hoping to happen, what's going to be next, when they should expect to hear back from you. And the comments you're making around wowing the customer. You can wow a customer just by being a good communicator. I think that's a big piece too. Even if you don't have this, a major wow solution for them, at least if you say you're going to escalate and then you are staying in touch with them, letting them know, here's what's next, here's what to expect from me, and then actually following up with that. As a customer, that means a lot to me. So just want to throw that out there.
Excellent. This has been wonderful. Any last thoughts to wrap us up here today?
Just one quick thing. So we look at, support or the customer experience. My thing has always been that the experience is really based upon, multiple parties within the corporation, right? So it's cloud, if it's SaaS, it's cloud operations, it's engineering, it's product management, it's support, right? It's customer success. So a lot of it is that if there isn't a communication path or a regular communication cadence between those teams, it's hard to have support engineers have that confidence that was mentioned and be able to set expectations properly with the customer. So I always felt that having, I always had regular weekly meetings with the engineering teams, with the product management teams, with the success teams, with cloud operations. So that way, if a support engineer said, if it's Tuesday and, you have a Wednesday meeting with product management, then you can convey to the customer that, hey, I'm going to need a day or a couple days, and I'll get back with you with the information, right? So I think a lot of this comes back to, we can have the SLAs and everything that we want to present up front for the engineers and the support management teams to follow, but you really have to have the relationships to ensure that we are successful with the experience and meeting those SLAs for these customers.
Thank you, Khaled. That is a great way to end this. Support success touches a lot of other organizations. You have to have a good relationship with them to make that work. So perfect capstone idea. Folks, I appreciate your contribution. Of course, I always appreciate your involvement in the Brain Trust in contributing to wonderful discussions in our breakout rooms. I hope to see you all next month at the February CS Executive Brain Trust. And of course, we want to thank Y Meadows for putting it together. If you have any AI questions or looking for AI solutions, look no further than Y Meadows. Folks, thanks again for joining. We'll see you all next month.